Thanks for listening to Curious Cat, the podcast that examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. I'm your host, Jennifer Holtz. Join me every week as I explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. This week, I have a very special guest. It's someone that I have goosebumps all over my body. I can't even get through this. I didn't write a formal intro. My guides told me not to, but she's someone that you need to know about. She's doing some really amazing work, and she's modest. She's humble. She's probably uncomfortable. I don't even know talking about herself, but I'm going to kind of make her because she's doing some things that matter in this world and we need more of. So I'd like to introduce Ona Christie Martin to you. And she is making art. She's talking to angels and they're channeling through her. And I'm going to stop trying to introduce her. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Jennifer, I'm feeling amazing today, and thank you so much for having me on.
I'm so glad. Do you like to be called Ona Christie? Ona? What Christie? What's your favorite?
I am really open to whatever. My given name is Anne Christina, and when I was 3, I decided that my name was Ona, and my mother hated it. Right. And it always felt like my secret name. And then when I turned 50, I was like, what the heck? What am I doing being just hiding, right?
Yes.
Good at. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to put it out there. So yeah, but the Christie comes from Christine. It was what it was called growing up, and it felt important to keep it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Whenever I think of you, I think of Ona. So I guess I'll just go with that because I see you. I see you. We're on this healing journey with just a little background for the listeners. My husband and I, and our dog just suddenly had an episode where he wasn't able to have balance. He couldn't see. His eyes were just like glitching back and forth. It felt very neurological because we have an epileptic cat we take care of. And so I was like, this is very strange. It was like a light switch went. And I started getting the numbers 8 everywhere and infinity sign, which is a, flat 8, sideways 8. And we got him care and we carried him this. Wow. Ona just lifted up a painting of the infinity sign in gold. And that's what I was seeing all over Cooper during his healing. And Cooper's this 90-pound chocolate lab. So we had to carry him outside and hold him up so he felt safe to use a bathroom. We'd carry him inside. And slowly but surely, over the course of a few days, this angel kept coming forward that I didn't know. And I was like, I got to research that. And then out of the blue, my soul sister Molly said, "Hey, have you been having Ariel? I see Ariel all around you." I said, "Ariel, is she an angel?" And she said, "Well, I mean, no gender, could be he, could be she, but Archangel Ariel." And I don't know, have you needed some healing for any of the animals in your life? I said, "Yeah, Cooper." And he's doing it, man. So I went in search of to say thank you, to show my gratitude to Ariel. I knew that December was going to be dedicated to the angels, but I thought Ariel's going to kick us off December 5th. So I started doing this research, and immediately I just get out of the AI algorithms and go into the deep stuff. And it pointed me to you, Ona, and your YouTube video about Ariel. And I have goosebumps again, and I want to cry, and I don't know why. And it was like the message and the way that she came to you and shared with you so openly who she is was more than you can find on a flat piece of paper. It's like it was a multi-dimensional look at who this amazing who felt like a goddess to you at first. And then it's like, I keep getting these kind of angelic wings kind of feeling. So tell us about your journey with your art, if you're comfortable, and maybe with angels. And I don't know, how did it start?
How did it start? I think I, when I was a kid, I was just always drawing, and so it was just like whatever, it just kind of flowed through me. And so I majored in art, and I noticed when I was in college doing a lot of art that it would be like a couple years down the line after I'd do a painting and I'd start to see how it related to what had been going on in my life
Hmm.
and how that, moved through time. And so I started to realize that, well, there's something a little bit more than just images, right? And not just
Yeah.
something, um, but it didn't really strike me until it was around 2014. I was having this big spiritual awakening. And I had just moved back up here to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And I got this just, how you get those knowings or the download. And it
Hmm.
was just like I was directed to hold my dad in my mind and then draw and see what came out. And there was this bear goddess that came out. There's this like almost like a Greek looking figure, beautiful female figure holding, like kind of hugging a bear with one hand. She had this crystal ball in the other hand. And as I looked at it, I started to see and be aware of all these kind of like the symbolic meaning of it for him. Um, and it was like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right. And at that point, I was still very, very early on in this spiritual awakening. I wasn't aware of like the importance of boundaries and asking permission and all this, right? So I started
Yes.
like, well, let's do this for this friend. I wasn't even telling them about it, right? It's like, oh, let's do this for this friend and that friend. It's like I started seeing all this stuff. Right? And that's how it kind of started, just the more the intentional aware tuning in. Um,
Hmm.
but I have been finding that it's like dreaming on canvas, right? I'll get an inspiration or some image will come in, or I'll just sort of feel inspired to tune into something. And the images that come through are just archetypal, they're symbolic, and they all have all these layers of messages, right? To where I can do an image and then I'll kind of I call it Akashic inquiry, just kind of inquiring, asking my guides to help me to understand the meaning, and it'll show me all the stuff. And a lot of times it'll come in conjunction with synchronicities and things kind of, how things start to
Hmm.
show up in your life, and you're like, you get this feel about it. It's like, oh, that's it has meaning. And then you start connecting the dots, and it is this just this I don't know, this strange way of pulling information out of the ethers. And I've found it to be incredibly and helpful for just guiding me through life. And I also found that I could just tune into a person and the images come forward. I have done this in session with people, like it's almost like a guided journey, kind of a shamanic sort of thing. I'm assuming that I might have learned something in a past life to to do that,
Yeah.
or just tuning into them and creating a painting for them. It's sort of like a personal oracle. So yeah.
I think that is amazing. And okay, I know my listeners heard that. You're very humble, even in your description of your work. It's very loving and it's so full of gratitude. Going back to your father and the bear and the crystal, I have two questions about that. First, were they like dropping little hints that this was going to be happening? Like, did you think back and go, "Oh, that makes sense why I was seeing a bear or why this seemed to catch my eye prior to that happening?" And then my second question, I guess, is like a follow-up or connection is like, was what was it about that? You said it symbolized your father, maybe something he needed or his energy
Yeah.
now
I think it was
after.
something about his energy. I think it was like this was so long ago. This was 2014, and a lot of
Wow.
times I'll channel. But if it's something, well, even the aerial video, I would have to kind of rewatch that because I
Yes.
don't necessarily retain a memory of everything that I pull through.
Yeah.
I mean, I pull out, I think what's useful for me at the time. It helps me through my own journey. I
Hmm.
think in his case with the bear, I couldn't even tell you right now without actually re-going into
Yeah. Fair enough.
it what it was meant, but it felt like she really looked like a guide that was helping him. I think more than
Ah,
anything else, because I know
yeah.
he has been going through an amazing spiritual awakening over years
Yes.
as well. So he's
Yeah.
you know, an interesting person. Of course, there's that familial ancestral
Hmm.
connection that we have.
Yes.
So yeah.
There totally is. Well, I'm in awe of you, and I empathize because I'll have things happen in my life and I'm like, I'm really glad I journal because it felt like a dream, but then I touch those things and go, "Oh, okay. Well, this is more than me, and it's just a confirmation that I mean, I'm a little speck and they're just working through us, and it's not our job to hold those stories necessarily, just to be their kind of hands and feet and vessel for a period of time, I guess. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think, when you start doing this kind of work regularly, whether it's, going into meditation or journaling or through art or whatever it is, I think it just works with you. And all the things that come up, you may not retain every single last piece of knowledge, but it helps to open your field and open your mind and just increase your capacity for wisdom, I think. As you continue to do it, you'll find that it tends to, of course it goes in cycles, but the things tend to drop in easier. It seems to open doors of perception over time as you continue to work, because I think there's real spiritual guides that are working with us.
Yeah.
And when we work in these ways, we're really kind of raising our hands, like, just giving permission for them to work with us and through us and for us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that often, just if you look at before, I went on this journey deeply, like I always was connected with things happened in my life, even as a child, and I tucked them away because I'm like, that meant something, but I don't know what it meant then. And I'm understanding that also the trauma, I had these many things that were helping support me to keep that littler version of myself, my soul intact and hopeful, because I'm naturally, they call me Pollyanna, because I'm that, it's okay, it's going to be great. I have that hold the candle of hope constantly. And I'm looking back and going, part of what that younger version of myself had was me now, just going back and giving her a hug and saying, here's a little Polaroid of things are going to be okay. You're going to be surrounded by love and you're going to be touching the earth and you're going to have, amazing daughters and their partners that matter deeply. Giving just tiny little breadcrumbs of like, keep that hope alive. So I think I was tapped into it. But then when my father was passing away, too much stuff, just like not too much, but many things happened. And it just was, he, he was physically blind, but he was coming to me in my dreams. And when he was in the hospital and just saying, we were having rich conversations, and I'd wake up in the morning, just my belly and my chest just full of love and going, we're doing it. We're getting him ready for whatever the next thing is. So,
Oh,
y-
wow. That just gives me chills. I lost my mom, was it a little over 2 years ago? And that process that you're describing of when you have a loved one, right, who's moving into that transition. Oh my gosh, it's the most incredible experience ever because there is that deep connection. And I think even if we're not aware of it, it's still there, it's happening, and we're we're connecting and communing on levels that are so far beyond, our everyday
Yeah.
existence. Oh my gosh, that's so magical. Yeah.
I'm sorry for your loss. And it feels funny to say that because I know you're probably talking to her a lot. It's like she's probably still in your life in different ways. I don't want to make an assumption about your mom since she passed, but it's like my dad, I needed some, just something when we got to Colorado from Florida, and he just like hijacked my Spotify and gave me a song. I go, "Hi, Dad, I'll sing for you." And so I sang at the top of my
Oh,
lungs as
cool.
I cleaned the house. So he does, Gary Riley does things all the time.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
we're still able to we used to text in the morning. It was
Yeah.
our thing. We would text in the morning over coffee. And my joke is that I was in Washington State, he was in Northern California, and we'd be texting and laughing so hard that our dogs were barking at, like, what is going on? They'd just be barking in these two separate states. And I still I can have those conversations, but so I don't want to make assumptions about you and your mom's spiritual journey together. Was she open to this, or was it something that she was like, whatever, and then she died and went, "Oh my goodness, Ona."
No, she was always a really, really spiritual person, but like in a very different way than I don't think maybe quite as different as she might have thought, but um,
Really?
but I think she was very conventional in a lot of ways, but she was a concert pianist, and so I grew up hearing Chopin and Mozart and all the greats constantly, right? And
Yeah.
so she had this very open channel of beauty and magic, and she loved fairies.
Ah,
I think she really deep down believed in them. And she loved garden as well. She had this little shade garden, and she put these little gnomes and things in it. So I think she never really came out with like a big spiritual awakening, but I think she
mhm.
was quite awakened all her life. She really followed her heart in everything she did, and um, she's come back to me a few times in dreams, and usually she came back about it was maybe I think it was on her birthday the year after she passed, and she came to me in a dream, and she told me, I'm doing great. I'm learning new music. So, and she had been literally learning new music until a couple weeks before she passed. So, she
Wow.
was really something
Wow.
else.
What a special person. What
Yeah.
a very
Sounds like your
special
dad
person.
was too. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Well, and your father as well, and that he's on this journey now. Like I had because I think I don't know why or how, but so I lost my dad 4 years ago. It'll be 5 years this the Ides of March. And but almost exact well, it was within a year and 3 months, I have another dad, and he died of kidney failure also. And he did not believe in any of this. And it was like something that I think he did at one point, but he was just so closed off. And with my other dad, we had a really complicated, sticky relationship where
Yeah.
it's like I knew that I had to keep boundaries up in the physical world kind of thing, but I could do things. But I knew that his higher self was asking me in my sleep for help, with the physical self was saying, "You're not calling me sick. We're not saying the word hospice. We're ignoring this, right? And your mom doesn't need help because I'm going to get better, and I'm going to be driving myself soon." Like, just super denial. But his higher self kept reaching out to me in the dreamscape, which connects to like your art saying dream on canvas, which gave me goosebumps and wow, made me feel very watery in a loving way because I very much get you. And but his higher self said, "If it's okay with you, will you help me to get ready for the transition to
Oh,
the beyond?"
yeah.
And so he had me creating this like in the corner of his room, and it could go with him wherever. So their bedroom initially, and it was just obviously in the spiritual realm, but it was this like crystal car wash. It was like an automatic car wash with these gorgeous crystals and you name the crystal. A lot of it was very peach colored crystals, and he could go through it. Karmic car wash is what we called it, and go through it. And when he passed, it was just waiting for him whenever he chose. And because I get to speak to amazing people like yourself, Ona, I did. He was in denial in the physical plane. My mom said, Jennifer, don't blog about this and don't podcast about it. I'm like, I would never. That's sacred. I
Yeah.
would never. So nothing was out there. Only my partner, our kids, and my niece and nephew and my brother knew about the journey we were on.
Yeah.
And so my dad passed and I didn't know. Um, and I go on Instagram. I just put it on to put the pod just out of autopilot of like, I don't know what to do with myself. So I'll just post about the podcast episode this week. And I had 2 DMs from two of my dear friends I've made that are psychics. And they said, hey, Mike said, I get it, Jen. I know what you did for me. And thank you. You made it so much easier. They didn't know anything, no names. I have not put anything out there. So it was great confirmation. And then he, like my other dad, they both speak in music. So I really relate to your mother too. They speak in songs. And that Mike played the guitar and had a beautiful voice, but he was, and he hijacked my Spotify and sent me 3 songs that I had never heard of before. And they were so poignant. And the last one made me laugh my patootie off. It was called Night Swimming by REM. And what's funny is you listen to the lyrics, and he loved to strip down naked and go dip into the lagoon in the Columbia River.
Oh, yeah.
And so night swimming. And it's like the whole song just made me laugh because I was picturing him skinny dipping. So there's these connections to our parents, and I'm thinking about your father, but my mother, his partner, my mom, my biological mom, she's so closed off. She's like, nope, he's dead. I'm a widow. Derp, derp, derp. And Mike keeps telling me it's not your job to change your mom. It's not your job to bring her along. I'm doing for her what you did for me over here. So I've got the karmic car wash, and so.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how graceful your story is of how you helped him through that and without, you know, pushing his boundaries or anything, right? Just really respecting where he's at right now. And I think that as I was listening to your story, I was like, wow, that is so, so beautiful because I think that's something that we need to be aware of. You can see I'm like
I
crying.
know, that's me too. I keep crying too. I don't know
Um,
why.
yeah, but like this, we need to be aware of this right now more than ever, and not just for people who are passing, but our neighbors, our families, our coworkers, everybody out there. We're being driven into such division, and there's such kind of chaos, outrage out there, and a lot of emotions out there, which of course need to be flushed up and healed. But I feel like, and a lot of the things that are happening on social media, the way things are being discussed, it's not a healing discussion. It's one that actually it the outrage and the pain and the fear, all that are being actually amplified through a lot of the narratives and the discussions out there. And I think what you just described, working with it was your stepfather, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a respectful way to really see the light and who he was, and really you connected with his higher self and let the personality, whatever, be where he's at now, but seeing that higher self that is his true self and connecting with that and working with that and not pushing the issue you know
Yep.
where it couldn't be pushed, but really working and directing that positive energy and that healing energy in ways that are really actually more tangible than anything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
The intangible is actually more real.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that is such powerful magic. And I think it's something all of us can do, especially if there's somebody in your life, whether it's a political figure or whether
Right.
it's in your personal life, can we pull our attention off of what irks us and start directing our attention to the higher self of that person,
Yes.
and giving of ourselves to help to heal whatever's there, to
And
help
help
to
to
love.
love.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
because every single person has both light and dark. We all have both light and dark within us, and I think it's really important to recognize. It's easy for us to see. Usually, it's easy for us to see the light in ourselves and the light
Mhm.
that, because each of us is on a path of spiritual awakening and developing, and we've worked through certain lessons. And those lessons that we've worked through, often we can see kind of the dark that we've overcome. And often when we see others out there that whose life path doesn't resonate with ours, we can see their darkness because maybe it's like they haven't been through those particular lessons. But what we need to understand also is that those people may have been through spiritual lessons that we haven't, right? So we may have dark areas that they can totally see through, and when we just reject everything that's dark about them and label ourselves, we see this a lot in the political discussion right now. There's such a division between quote unquote right and left, and what we tend to do is this tribalistic thing of labeling what we don't agree with as evil and labeling our side as good. We all think we're on the good side, and we are.
Yeah.
Every one of us, like, I think I have friends on both sides of the aisle, right? So
Yes.
I can. My mother actually taught me to really listen and to start seeing the good in other people or seeing potential. So I tend to often kind of keep my mouth shut or find what I could agree with, and then am able to kind of hear people's trains of thought in context. And I can tell you that there's more in common between most people who have one viewpoint versus the other. They actually have more in common with each other than differences. I think most people really are looking for, safety for themselves and their loved ones. They're
That's
looking
right.
for security. They're looking for, a reconnection with the natural world. They're looking for health. They're looking for all this stuff. And I think there's a lot of points of agreement that we could have on what makes a beautiful world.
Yep.
I don't see a lot of focusing on what makes a beautiful world. I see a lot of focusing on what's wrong. And it's
Yeah.
important to recognize what's wrong. It really is. It needs to be
It
called out.
is.
It needs to be called out. I'm not saying to be passive and just let things go.
Right.
I think, how we put our attention on things and how we direct our attention energy, right, is really, really important right now. And I
Yeah.
think the way you worked with your stepdad, even though that was not a politically charged thing,
No.
but it really, I feel like it really demonstrated one way that we can, address discomfort in the world.
Yeah. And find commonality. So there's this angel. Actually, he's not accepted in heaven. He's not accepted in hell, and his name is Baliel, and he works in the shadows. And I think shadow work is important. And I feel like that's been me. Is I've been learning more that I'm holding space between two things, light and dark, because I agree with you. It's like we need to keep the bridge open. We need to keep the torches lit on it and the hands available to hold the other person, because that's there's more of us, like you said, that commonality. There's more of that than there is of this other stuff. And because of algorithms and because of all of, like you said, amplification. I see it as like this artificial white satellite dish just amplifying. And it's like we need to be the counterweight to that of like this love. And I'm learning that we don't have to scream into the void, but sometimes our passion and our it can come as anger of like, I love people. And I see that it's like at the end of yoga where you say namaste. I
Yeah.
see the God in me sees the God in you. And we need to do more of that. And you kind of blew my mind because talking about the political figures, we're being programmed that we're powerless
Right.
against that and against this thirst for war and for it seems like scarcity because all the resources, all the oxygen is going toward that.
Right.
And the reality is that they're letting that seem true and it's not. So we can take our power to our higher selves and say, this isn't how we operate anymore. This may not be how we've ever operated naturally. So, can we just give love to that higher self person so that maybe they wake up and those choices don't fit? It's like an ill fitting suit.
We are far, far more powerful than I think any of us has a concept of. And every thought that we have
Yeah.
that has an influence on the world. Every word we speak, every breath we take, right? How we take our breath, everything that we do has an impact on the world. That's how our soul works through the world, right?
Yeah.
And my guides have told me repeatedly, right? You're going to be more influential in the world sitting at home in your kitchen making jam in a high vibration than going out in the world and doing all sorts of great things in a lower vibration, right?
Yeah.
It's like sometimes, sometimes I think most of us will look at our lives and it's like, what am I doing? Why can't, why aren't I making a bigger impact?
Yeah.
I'm kind of, whether we all have our struggles in our lives, right?
Yes.
Whatever it is, getting out of bed sometimes could be a struggle,
Yeah.
right? And it's easy to beat ourselves up over it. But I think when you really look at the metaphysics of it, and start delving into spiritual laws, and you realize that there's so much more to the world than what we see, and that energetic presence, that when we cultivate that, it really does make a difference. We may not always see it, immediately or, in our lives, but it does make a difference, right? I've been told this multiple, multiple times by my guides, and I really believe it. I believe in the power of prayer. I believe in the power of, visualizing a different reality.
Yeah.
Right? And it can
And,
go both ways. So
and
we had to be really cautious of where we are placing our minds, when we worry, you
yeah.
know, what's that bringing into being? Our thoughts bring things into being.
This feels so relevant. And then we're going to take a little break and stretch our bones and have some water. But okay, because of some things that our family's been going through in the last week. And of course, my throat chakra, it's like, don't bring this forward, but I'm going to, is holding space, put like high vibrational energy. And also, it's okay to say angels, guides, light beings. I can't get into the minutia, the detail of how to make this come to fruition, but I am willing to be your vessel to help it come to fruition. And you and what I got from the guides this week was they were like, well, of course, because okay, this is how they gave it to me, which was so funny. They said, okay, you're going to perform knee surgery, and this is your first knee surgery. We've been doing this for millennia. Let us work out the details. Like, we're the knee surgery experts. I mean, it was just funny. And they were laughing. They said, it's sweet of you to care and want to try, but let us take care of all the details. And in fact, you're going to find out looking backward, we are always had this. We always
Oh,
had
I
this.
love that. I so love that. It is so true. It's like, and it's so hard to relinquish control, right? It's
Yes, it
hard
is.
for us, right? Because we, especially those of us who who care, right? We feel responsible, like we got to do it.
Yes. Exactly. This is so true. You're walking with me because with that, we're going to take a super quick break and stretch our bones, and we'll be right back on the flip side.
Hi, I'm Derek Condit with Mystical Wares. I've recently published 2 books. The first is titled Shungite Unveiled. It's an FAQ and hidden insights to the miraculous mineral called shungite and how it can be used to help save the bees. It also contains chapters on shungite and healing, shungite in plants, the Shungite Grid Project, as well as ways to use shungite with animals and in construction. So it's a large FAQ or accumulation of ways to use shungite in everyday life. Then the second book I've released is called Everyday Magic, and it's inspirational stories of intuition and awakening. So it's a collection of 18 short stories that I put together that can help to explain some of the metaphysical aspects of our reality that we're all experiencing. Either of these books are available at mysticalwares.com or Amazon. There's also additional information on how to help save the bees with our Shungite Beehive project. That also can be found at mysticalwares.com, and we appreciate your support.
Welcome back. Thanks for meeting us on the flip side. This is Ona Christie Martin, who's an artist, and she's doing amazing things and things that we need to have a lot more of in the world. And this coming year, 2026, is the year of the fire horse, I
Mm.
guess. And when we're talking about this fire energy, and a horse feels like, I haven't really looked into it. I don't know a lot about it, but it feels like, I don't know, a horse is steadfast and strong and bold and true.
Well, ask me about horse energy.
Really?
Um, Horse is one of my, yeah, and wow, there's a lot of power. Um, if you think of a horse, it's a prey animal, right? But it
Yeah.
also has been used for warfare, right? So there's a lot of with horse, balance is like one of the biggest kind of key symbolic meanings.
Yeah.
First of all, if you're riding a horse, balance is absolutely essential because the horse is very sensitive, right? It can feel
Yeah.
where your weight is. And so, really good expert writers, they are all about balance, right? And
Mm-hmm.
maintaining that balance. And you can actually, a good writer will actually use their weight and their sense of balance. Some of them can actually ride without reins and just direct that horse through the balance, right? So being grounded is absolutely essential when we are working with horse energy. Um, and if you think of a rider who is seated in the saddle, I used to ride a little bit when I was younger, and it was always challenging for me because I'd always be bouncing up, off the horse until I finally learned that absolutely ground yourself into that saddle, and then you're going to move with the horse in a way that is just much more stable. The horse feels more secure, and it keeps you down in that saddle so that you can from that place of balance, respond and move with whatever crazy thing the horse does. So that I feel like if we're looking at Fire Horse for 2026, that's going to be a major, major thing to kind of be aware of and to work on is the grounding. We need to stay grounded. And again, that also has to do with focusing your awareness. Again, for a rider, if you're directing that horse, and I'm thinking of especially maybe a hunter jumper who's going around the ring,
Yes.
you need to be looking ahead towards the goal and you're your line of sight, your vision helps to, I think it works with your whole body. It helps, the vision goes first, and then that really helps to direct the horse where you want it to go, right? So I think
Yeah.
2026 could be super powerful in terms of directing our energy, but it may be challenging because, again, we're working with instinctual energies and ones that are easily influenced by fear.
Hmm.
Right, as a prey animal, they're
Hmm.
reactive. They can be explosive. They can be unpredictable. So we may see some of that sense of unpredictable, explosive, especially with fire.
Yeah.
It could be a very explosive, unpredictable year, and one with a lot of, how horses shy, so
Tumult.
that kind of thing,
Yes.
surprise elements and that kind of thing. On the other hand, a horse is what carries you over obstacles. So I think when we tap into the positive energy this coming year, it's got the potential for really carrying us over a lot of old stuff, right? And if you think of the winged horse Pegasus, right? If we can take wing, fire is the element that's associated with spirit, right? So I think this is going to be a really very powerful year coming up. And yeah, it's interesting. It's a fire horse.
Okay. And then last year was the wood snake, and
Yeah.
horses are terrified of snakes.
Yes.
So some of that jolting is going to be the past stuff that
Oh,
just,
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that we're reacting to. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Absolutely. Yeah.
And when we get into that reaction mode, maybe what we can do is go, we got to sit back in the saddle and
Yeah.
trust. And
Yeah.
what's interesting, because it's an audio podcast, is when Ona was describing the gates of hunter jumper, you look ahead to the other gate, because my youngest did do some hunter jumper for a little period of time. And you do have to look ahead, and it's a trust exercise because you're back in your saddle, but you're looking ahead with your aim and you're keeping it focused there. Because if you look at the nose of the horse, you're dumping over the top of the horse.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
every time in 2026, maybe that we get into, oh my gosh, the world is going to, whatever the thing is that gets us to forget ourselves and center ourselves
Yeah.
and get us forward in the saddle, maybe that's our moment to go, wait, I'm supposed to sit back in the saddle. I'm supposed
Right.
to settle
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. And we need to, we can get personal with this because
Yeah.
it's like we need to be the rider, not the horse, right? And
Oh,
have the
yes.
that horse animal, instincts within us, the animal impulses, and
Yes.
those are really, really, really powerful. I work a lot with spirit animals, and they help with that. But most people are primarily driven by our animal selves, right? And that's where the fear comes in, the desires and so forth,
Yeah.
um, even addictions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what the spiritual awakening process is awakening the writer part, right? The
Yeah.
conscious mind who can,
Wow.
and if you look at really wonderful horse people or dog people or cat people, they understand and respect the animal for what it is, right? And they also are able to work with it and bring out the best in that animal, right?
Mhm.
And so it's not that we want to leave our animal selves behind. It's really,
Mhm.
really important to integrate with it. But we have to understand that many of the impulses and emotions, especially that we feel, are driven by that animal self. And so
Mhm.
it's really, really important to begin to work on developing that conscious mind and our higher logic, right? And that's
Mhm.
moving, the animal self has a big connection with like the astral, right? And
Yeah.
so it can be very emotional, and to learn to work with your emotions, it's not repressing them, because that's like working with an animal and beating it or whatever to try to into
Yeah.
submission, right? So we don't want to do that because that never ends up with a good partnership. So we don't want to suppress it. We want to be able to feel those emotions, but then we want to be able to stand back as the observer, like the animal trainer or something, and realize, okay, well, this animal's really upset. That's fine. And then, like, what can we do to help that animal release those emotions in a safe way, and then redirect it towards something that's positive.
Yeah.
Right? We can all do that with ourselves.
Well, it goes back to the first part of our conversation about we were talking about the shadow, the light and the dark, and the duality. And and you blew my mind with be the rider, not the horse, because it's like those are the boundaries. I think of a river, right? And the masculine and the feminine energy. We need the water, the feminine energy, the flow, but we need the riverbanks to hold it, like be boundaries, and so that it can channel to a thing or be, hold in the water to go somewhere to.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's that divine masculine
Right.
energy that I feel like is misunderstood.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's confused with toxic masculinity, because
Yeah.
what the masculine energy does, and we all have both, so it's not saying men and women
Yes. Right.
necessarily, especially in this time of history. But that masculine energy is there to direct and to provide a framework, right? For this beautiful flowing feminine energy that is so abundant and creative.
Yes.
Right, but
Yeah.
doesn't we need both of them. It's so
We need
important.
both.
Both, yes.
Yeah, and we need balance. Like we just and balance doesn't mean casting the other as evil or bad and shoving it away. It's
Right.
honoring both
Yes.
equally. And
Yes.
I think that there's been a lot of healing in that regard. I think a lot of people, not me, but I think other people, I think your art is one of those things that's helping to carve the path to healing on a bigger, wider what platform, or I don't want to use the word platform because it's so loaded, but in a bigger way it's resonating, and it's making the path for other people to go, I want to find balance too. I'm
Yeah.
imbalanced right now. It's your art and what you're doing is helping that to be a smoother path. It's like, hey, there's a path. Maybe this feels more in balance. I can walk among the trees and that are like this big structure and see the light through them. And I can talk about these things and ponder these things and channel. And it's like that you have balance in all you're doing, even in your YouTube, which you may not remember unless you watch them, but you're striking that balance. And I swear you're making it a smoother path for the rest of us that are so hungry for balance.
Thank you. I think we're all hungry for balance. Like, I think balance for me has been something I've really worked on and continue to work on, right? I'm not always
Yeah.
That's the thing about balance. It's like riding a bicycle, where it's a continual process of being unbalanced and readjusting, right?
Mhm.
So it's like it's rare that we're in a state of like, and I think that's maybe
Yeah.
where enlightenment is,
Yeah.
where we actually reach that state of wow, we're just there.
Yeah.
Maybe the Buddha really actually just sits in stillness, but for most of us, it's more like riding a bike, where it's a constant kind of process of adjustment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I love that. I love picturing Buddha on a bike too.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
It's so sweet. I want to be the mama that's like making sure, behind his bike, like, oh, it can't tip over, Buddha can't fall. I think that that's so important right now, though. And I also think that it's like balance can sometimes I was sleeping last night and we're going through this family thing and it's not for public consumption, but I woke up and I was like, I'm so angry. I'm so
Oh,
angry. I'm so angry. And and then my guide said, sleep angry then. Sleep angry. I went, Okay, so I wrote it down on a post-it. I came out and got some water and I wrote it on a post-it, sleep angry. And I'm like, I think I'm going to make a t-shirt for myself in Sharpie that says sleep angry, because I am very Pollyanna and I am holding the torch of hope and light. And here's the path and come this way. And Harry Potter, first years,
Yeah.
come this way. But
Yeah.
it's okay for me to feel this other part of the scale of like,
Yes.
I'm angry about this.
Right. And yeah, it is important to acknowledge those emotions and feel them deeply, right? Because I'm like you too. I tend to be like, not showing or just kind of shoving it down.
Yeah.
And that's really toxic.
Yeah, it's bad. It's
So
bad for your
yeah,
body too.
no, own it. But I think there's something in the English language that is interesting is that we say I am angry, right? And that's an affirmation. So
Oh,
what we can do
yeah.
is like when we notice that, can we shift the language a little bit to I'm feeling anger. I'm
I'm
feeling angry.
feeling anger. And then you take the power away from it and you're
You
just
take the
saying, oh, I
power
acknowledge it.
away from it.
And
Yeah.
it has that feeling of the higher self kind of observing
Yes.
the
Yeah.
neutral observer going, oh, I'm feeling angry. I'm
Yeah.
feeling anger. Hello, anger. You're not in the front seat.
Right. And once you've done that, you've detached yourself because we tend to identify with our emotions, but we're not our emotions. Detaching yourself, even that just little linguistic twist, it puts you in the saddle again, right? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that because we will have times in 2026 where the traces of the wood snake this year make the fire horse freak out. And we're going to
Yep.
go, oh, we're seeing that horse. And what do we do as a rider? You don't let loose of the reins. You
Yeah.
sit back in the saddle and you've got the grip. You might give a reassuring pat, like
Yep.
it's going to be okay.
Yep. You might have to turn it in circles for a while.
I know.
Don't help
Exactly.
with the reset, but
You know what? That goes back to what you said about there are times where we just have to, it's uncomfortable for some
Mhm.
of us.
Yeah.
But look, it took me to 45 and now I'm 56. It took me that long to say, I don't want to do harm with all my fire energy that's like burn it down. It must be bad. I have to sit quietly. And sometimes it means I have to stop this conversation with someone. And it's like, I'll pick it up again, but I don't want to do harm to our relationship. I'm actually going to sleep on it.
Oh, that's so wise.
So
Yeah.
but it took me to 45 to even figure out because I didn't want to do harm or burn down things. But
Right.
that's going to be our energy, right? Of just like
Yeah.
sitting with the horse, doing the circles.
Mhm.
Sometimes those circles are fruitful, maybe.
Yes, they can be. And that comes to the topic of discipline, right? Because when you're in the thick of it, if you're sitting on a horse and a battle breaks out and that horse has had no training, good luck. Good luck. But that's why soldiers, not just soldiers, like anybody musicians,
Yeah.
right? The arts are the same way. It's like we rise to the level of our training, right? Not necessarily our abilities, but our training. And that's like my mother used to have her students practice a bow and practice, all the things that you would
Smart.
experience during a performance so
Yeah.
that when they got to the performance, it was not something new that would kind of knock them out of their composure. So that, and I think that's something that meditation does. It's a training, it's a discipline. And or any little thing that you do for yourself that is consistent, that helps you to we kind of cut these grooves in our psyches, in our own minds, in our beings, and when we cut those grooves deep enough, that's the default. We default into that, right? We can cut those grooves in a negative way through worry or through whatever, or identifying with our emotions, but we can also cut it in a positive way too. Okay, what's going to bring us back to center? What's going to bring us back to, you know, feeling connected, right? Feeling,
Mm-hmm.
in
Remembering that
control.
connection and letting
Mhm.
it be louder than whatever
Yeah.
is in our heads. I always call it the mean girl in my head. I mean, because I'm a writer and you just have to banish that person. And I have great empathy for all of the authors that they have to, they reach to addiction to numb that
Yeah.
voice in our head, but just maybe being quiet long enough to feel it again
Mhm.
is it's a
Yeah.
key.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, addictions, that's the little monster inside, right? And I think that comes down to shadow work, right?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is having the courage to look at it and having the courage to name it. It's like, okay, I'm wrestling with you now.
Yeah.
um, because it's addiction is not easy, and I think
Yeah.
probably all of us have some level of addiction
Yep.
to something, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And those addictions are kind of like, I think of us as being a bird, and the addiction is kind of a cage that's holding us in. And it's like we just, if we acknowledge this addiction,
Yeah.
automatically, it's like you were saying, we're outside the cage going, hey, you don't control me anymore. I'm going
Right.
to acknowledge you.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. And I think one addiction that is really cropping up hugely right now is the addiction to drama.
Wow. Yes. I have goosebumps all over my legs, up my legs, and into my torso. That it was very important. That is exactly true.
Hmm.
And maybe that's because the well, we know why we're addicted. And it's a
Yeah.
dopamine thing. It's a
Mhm.
dopamine addiction ultimately. And also feeling a lack of control and feeling like if we quadruple down on our hate or our whatever, that it will
Yeah.
make it better and it won't solve it.
It won't solve it. It's comfort zone too,
It
right?
is.
Especially if you're a person who's had trauma in their life or grown up with chaos or with drama or whatever going on around you, or has a family history of that. It goes on through generations. It can take generations you know, to mitigate that. But I think it's really showing up hugely just in general in society right now. That the constant drama and chaos, and it takes our attention. Our attention is it's the new currency, right?
Yeah.
What we put our attention on, we're feeding energy into.
Yes, we are. And I don't know why that makes me cry, but that's
Mhm.
exactly true. I think on the other side of it, I think of the example of I don't know what he won the Nobel Peace Prize for. I thought it was for medicine, an advance in medicine or something. And I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong. I'll put it in the show notes. But
Mhm.
he didn't even know. Like he didn't even know he won this grand world award because he was out camping, hiking, living off the grid.
There you go.
And so I'm trying to manifest more of that in my life of like, he was not only okay, he was thriving. And
Mhm.
it was a consistent thriving and a consistent abundance. And he was just oblivious to all that. And isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we all know what we're being called towards,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how often do we let our attention waver from that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that what you said, our attention is the currency of the day.
Mhm.
Um, how many times do you say, "Oh, I have an inspired thought," and those I feel are not from us. It's a divine guidance of like things are lined up. This is something. This is an end product. We'd really feel like you have the hands and feet and the resources to do right now, and then you're life happens and you're laying in bed and go, what did I forgot something. There's a nagging feeling. I
Yeah.
forgot something in your belly, in your heart. And then you're like, what was it? And it slipped away. Maybe not forever. I feel like they do, like with me, they sometimes have to use a megaphone And I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. But it is there. We shouldn't have that, our calling be the nagging feeling. Maybe we should reverse it and make
Yeah,
the nagging feeling of like, oh, I forgot to check in with the news. And that's
yeah,
okay.
that's okay.
Let's
Right?
reverse
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's like, okay, can we be first of all aware of it and then maybe start to prioritize it a little more?
I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, isn't that true with the guides? I don't know, but if we say you're real, you're here, you've been around longer than me, and I hear you,
yeah,
they're like, oh, we'll give you more of it then.
yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. And I think, we have these allies, these spiritual allies, that are so, so powerful. And I think they're just waiting for us to give the okay, you know, to say,
They-
hey, okay, I'll work with you, right?
yeah, they're saying, hey, you put us on a preset on your radio. Hey,
Yeah.
we're in there. There's smooth
Right?
jazz country, and then there's
Yeah.
Ariel.
That's the thing, though, that they usually speak very quietly, so you have to
Yeah.
tune down the other stuff in order to hear them.
Yeah. I'm supposed to ask you before we close.
Yeah,
I feel drawn to ask you about specifically about your art. So,
yeah.
is it something that you do art every day? You paint every day or paint or sketch? And tell me about, like, if it's okay with you,
Yeah.
are you by a window? Do you have music going? Is that okay to
That's funny. Yeah, no, I'm really glad you asked because this has been like, okay, so this is obviously my life's work, and it's also been, I think, the core of the spiritual battle for me is like allowing myself to do it and taking the ego out of it, right? And I think that
Yeah.
was part of the battle was because like I've had periods of months where I didn't paint, even just this past summer, it's just like I didn't do anything. I even stopped posting my channel. And I think it all came to a head this past summer. And that's why you're seeing me do more now, because it's like I broke through something.
Yeah.
But I finally realized it's like when I started devoting myself daily to spirit, I give it's all yours.
Yeah.
um, I'm making it a conscious practice to, okay, I am doing the work, I'm getting it out there, I'm sharing it, I'm open to receiving whatever financials will assist me in continuing to do this and more. And it's really the credits spirit. It's like, I can't think of these things that come out of the brush. Whatever. It's
Yeah.
not from me. And it's not like, I think I had a fear of getting out there and just being like kind of I'm this big artist or whatever, whatever, a spiritual leader, whatever. And I think one's ego can take that and run with it. So I think it was a battle, a real kind of struggle I had to go through. But I want to say this to anybody who is feeling those spiritual gifts in that call and struggling with it because it is a real struggle. And I think that act of devotion and release and relinquishing what you have, recognize that those spiritual gifts or whatever gifts you have, it could be accounting or whatever it is that you feel like really drawn to and it feels like it lights you up, anything, whatever it is. And if you're feeling like you're not prioritizing it, just recognize that when something lights you up, there's something holy about it. There's
Mm.
something sacred about that thing. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it for a living. In fact, there may be some people that you're not meant to, or times in your life that you're not meant to, or you may, like for me, I had to work through a lot of stuff in order to get to the point where I can even start thinking about, doing art as a living.
Hmm.
Um, but don't discount it. Recognize that that's your sacred calling and give it some priority and just let spirit have it. Just know that wherever it's meant to take you, spirit will take you there, but you have to give it permission. And part of that giving it permission is just really relinquishing your hold on it. we don't need to control it. I think for me, there was some sort of subliminal fear of, oh, if I allow myself to do this, it's going to take over my life. And yeah, it will. It will. So coming to peace with that, releasing my need to control that, and recognizing that, okay, this is a sacred divine calling. There's no way. I mean, it actually did. The whole spiritual awakening completely changed my life. I ended up leaving my first marriage. My whole career has changed. Everything has changed. Everything, moved several times. Like, yes, my life came apart, and it's coming back together in so many beautiful ways that I can't even describe, could not even have imagined. And it's getting better. I mean, it's it's like I had to release, and things had to fall apart, and they will if you really follow your calling. Things will fall apart. So just come to terms with it. So either
Mhm.
people will either, I think everybody recognizes that within themselves, that that spiritual path is not for the faint of heart, that things will fall apart if you follow it. And those who do have the courage and move through that falling apart, wonderful things are in store. Because spirit doesn't, desert you. It doesn't
Mm.
trick you. Well, dark aspects of spirit will, but like when you're hooked onto that divine,
Mhm.
it doesn't lead you astray.
Yeah.
And whatever language you want to use, whether it's God or Jesus or the angels or your guides or whatever it is, your higher self, they're not going to lead you astray.
Ah, that is beautiful. And I saw the word weaving, just like these weaving threads coming together as you were speaking, just all around you, just as
Yeah,
you were mentioning about your journey with us.
yeah.
And it's an act of bravery because you know you're going to be letting go of a lot of things, but you have this true faith, again, looking past the nose of the horse to the gate ahead of like, I have faith that they wouldn't lead me astray. They've got me. And we're in the same flow state and the same high vibration. And it's faith. It's an act of faith. And they're like, we're there with you.
Faith, absolutely, and real love. I think Jesus said,
Yes.
"Love the Lord your God with all your strength." I don't, and I'm not going to
It's
quote it properly,
right.
but that's the idea. Is like when you place that love for the highest forefront in your life, and just trust that it's going to carry you through whatever you need to go through in order to get to a higher place. And probably you'll be led through hell to get there. Just
Yeah.
bring that girl up into the room right away, and then it becomes less scary. It's like, okay,
Exactly.
and it's going to tell spirit, tell God, whatever, I'm willing to, you just take me and do with me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get closer to you, and to be, you know, aligned with who I really am. And because we all have the karma, right? That's what
Hmm.
falls away. It's not anything that you want to keep that falls away. The things that are true, the friends that are really true friends,
Hmm.
right? Will stay.
That's right.
Your whatever connection you have, whether it's through memory, whatever it is, that's true and light and beautiful, will remain with you. You don't lose anything that, you might lose some things that are heartbreaking. This, you'll probably go through heartbreak. That's part of it. But it's like when a bone is broken and has been broken for a long time, the doctors have to re-break it in order to set it right, and that's what's
Yeah.
happening.
I'll have all the links in the show notes because there are going to be art pieces that speak to people. And if you go to the website, her website, there's also links to the YouTube videos, and they are just heartening. Like if you're just feeling, I don't know, just an inkling and just a little lost, there's a path that you have carved, and I don't think you take credit for it. It's like, but it's like, it reminds me of when I've done a hike and there you see people, volunteers that are like just clearing out some stuff and setting stones better. Like you've been making this smooth, beautiful path for people, and it's there for them. And I'm going to help make it easy because it'll be all right there, and just dive in because it's an honor to know you and to see your work firsthand, and to think of you not being behind the canvas and putting, your dreams onto the canvas is just a tragedy. So I'm going to be one of those people that's like, what are you making this week?
Well,
Because
actually, I
I
just want
believe
to
in
say
you.
something to that is that I always had kind of this feeling of drawing an aversion to the art, and I finally realized it's like, well, I actually always knew it was part of the picture, but not the whole thing. And it's only been very recently I understood what the whole thing was, right? It's all of it together.
Yeah.
And so again, a word of encouragement to anybody out there that's feeling like you can't quite figure it out. You'll figure it out eventually, because you're meant
Yeah.
to be here in a way that's unique to you, and it may not be the traditional path of whatever field it is that you're in. I think we're moving into a time when we're really like being invited to step out of the box, and we're all complex people, and the world so far has been one that wants to put us in boxes, but I think that's breaking open.
Yeah.
uh, so just open to wherever you're being guided, because it's going to show you how to use those gifts in a way that makes sense to you, and that everything can come together. But
Mm. I love that. I feel that that's a perfect message as we go into 2026. Thank you for being here and taking time with us.
thank you so much. Oh man, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
You too. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah.